Hi, Matt. Have you ever sung on the radio?
I've not sung on the radio, and
Okay.
I hate to tell you I can't sing.
Oh.
And that's probably not going to happen.
Okay. I mean, is there anything that in life that encourages you to do? Have you ever karaoke'd, Matt?
I karaoke'd once. I did "Creep" by
Radiohead?
No, TLC.
By Radiohead. Yeah,
By
Yeah, that was my
Radiohead.
song. There you go.
What
There
do you mean? I don't belong here? I'm a creep? Matt, you're none of these things.
Yeah, I was able to sell that pretty well
Okay.
to the karaoke crowd.
Oh, my God, I love it. Okay, fine, we'll talk Niners. Matt Barrows with us, The Athletic. Hey, I think we got to start with it seemed like impromptu press conference that Kyle held over the weekend that maybe you guys thought wasn't going to be him, and it was. What were your impressions? What did you take from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of Kyle Shanahan's plan to kind of push himself a little bit further each day and do more and more. And, appearing at the podium in front of the cameras was on his list of things to do. And so I thought that he was a bit nervous maybe to begin because he hadn't done it yet. He's recovering from this concussion. But, once he got into it, he seemed like the same Kyle Shanahan. In fact, he went 20 minutes, which is longer than a typical Kyle Shanahan press conference. He talked about his accident. He talked a little bit about the team. He's speaking extemporaneously. He's answering questions that he doesn't know, what questions are coming. These are all kind of testing your brain. And you're doing so, like I said, on stage with cameras, with lights. So I think it was a good test for him. And, as far as I can tell, he passed that test. And then tomorrow, he's not scheduled to speak, but I would assume that if he feels up to it, again, given the fact that, Robert Saleh's in town, they're having a joint practice, this would be another opportunity to kind of get up there and talk in front of the media.
Yeah, taking baby steps, heading toward the ultimate opener in September. I wonder what you make of the way that they're doing camp this year, Matt, as opposed to previous years where they now have this, what is it, a jog-through that they're doing?
They called it a jog-through on the very first time they did it. But it's a walkthrough. I mean, that's exactly what it is. No helmets, no pads. They're basically walking through the plays. But two things. One is that they've canceled the open practices for the media on those days, and it turns out it's one quarter of all the training camp days. So I'm opposed to it being a reporter. So I wasn't too happy when they came out with this new schedule, but I did think that, okay, this at least will cut down on their injuries. And so far that has absolutely not been the case. The injuries are keeping pace with last year's. I know that few of them have been, very serious ones. Mikhail Kamara, the rookie, tore his ACL. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall aggravated the PCL that he had last year. They had a high ankle sprain to Vidarian Lowe, their backup left tackle. But most of them have been the typical camp injuries. And I have to believe that they thought with this modified schedule that they, wouldn't eliminate those, but they would cut down on the numbers. But I don't think that the numbers are any lower than they've been in recent years.
Matt, let's talk about some of those injuries, because the other thing is that it sounds like the team is trying to pass along that, outside of the Pearsall one, maybe a couple others, these are not only not serious, maybe actually just precautionary. Mike Evans, Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, are we looking at actual injuries or just kid gloves?
I mean, I think with Evans, because we see him out there every day, and he's running pretty fast doing his rehab work. they're being, cautious with him. He got a lot of practice in the spring, was there every day for the first, 5, 6 full speed practices, looked good, building a rapport with Brock Purdy. So I don't think there's really any impetus to kind of get him out there if he's not feeling 100%. The one that makes me pause is Nick Bosa, because he hadn't even been going, participating in full. He'd been kind of limited to the individual drills and things where the defensive linemen are just working among themselves. He hadn't done any 11-on-11 work, and now is dealing with soreness and has missed a string of practices. So it seems like it's more serious than soreness. I haven't heard any, because Kyle Shanahan doesn't always talk, and he's the only one that really talks injuries. We haven't heard much about it. But I think at some point, you start to be concerned. I mean, Shanahan did say that it's not something that they thought was going to happen. But obviously he's being bothered by something, and we haven't seen him at all. So it's not like Mike Evans, where you kind of glance over and you see Bosa working on a side field. He's been absent from our review, at least, for the last 5 or 6 days. So something to monitor. It's a bit of a wrinkle. Still early August, so it's not code red yet, but it's already a thin group. Not a lot of stars at that defensive end position. They're very much counting on him to be the Nick Bosa of old, and we haven't seen him practice in full yet.
And that could be troubling as we get closer to September 10th, not August 10th, which is where we sit today. But I'm wondering, Matt, if you've gotten any word or any idea from the Niners on how they're going to approach Thursday and their first preseason game as it pertains to who's going to play and how much.
Yeah, I don't expect the Nick Bosas, the Mike Evans, the Christian McCaffreys to play at all. I think the hope is that their starters get good work tomorrow in the joint practice, and then play very little or not at all against the Titans on Thursday. So maybe a Colton McKivitz, maybe Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green play a series or two, but it wouldn't be surprising if all those guys are sitting and we're looking at the 2s and the 3s. And, frankly, those are the guys that need the most work. We're talking about a team that has a lot of first and second year players, rookies and guys who were rookies last year. Last year's draft class was a big class, and a lot of those guys are in key spots right now. I mean, Marquise Siegel is, de facto starting safety. You got Nick Martin looking at, a big role this year. Alfred Collins is working his way back into practice, et cetera, et cetera. So I would think that it's largely that group of guys who play on Thursday.
Matt Barrows, The Athletic, with us on Willard and Dibs 95.7 The Game, talking out Niners camp and much more. Matt, your best guess right now on the actual game day role that De'Zhaun Stribling will play is what?
I think he's basically Juwan Jennings when the season opens, which means third down, a lot of third and De'Zhaun, I guess we're going to call it.
I like it
from now on. There you go. We coined it. We coined it.
Very good.
But he's cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. He's a strong guy. He's a good blocker. He's good in tight spaces, and that's been sort of the revelation over these first 10 practices, that when he's in the middle of the field, when he's got Upton Stout draped all over him. So he plays out of the slot, what the 49ers call their F position, which means he's going up against Stout quite a bit. And Stout is a very, very hands-on, feisty player. He's had a really good camp to this point. But even with Stout all over him, he's been making catches. So I think that bodes well. The big difference, the reason why Juwan Jennings was a 7th-round pick way back in 2020, and Stribling is a very early second-round pick, is that Stribling's also really fast. And so the 49ers are hoping that combination of sort of gritty catches and playing out of the slot, maybe wriggling out of the tackle, means that he's going to have a lot of yak yards this year. And I'll say that he's looked really, really good. All systems go with him. Missed a couple of practices with a hamstring issue, but came back and kind of picked up where he left off. I think that the 49ers are either getting what they expected from Stribling at this point, or a little bit more, actually, than what they thought they might get on August 10.
Pretty exciting to see coming up in a month exactly what he can do and how he can produce. I'm just a little curious, Matt, about the running back situation. If McCaffrey doesn't play Thursday, and you're probably right that he won't, are they going to actually have somebody who's a running back on the field?
They have 3 running backs right now, and I don't think anybody owns the jerseys of any of these 3 guys. But they're Patrick Taylor Jr., who I think started a game back in 2024. I think the game in Miami, maybe. Sincere McCormick, that people may know from being on the Raiders roster, and Khalil Herbert, who people may know from being on the Bears roster. And they've been, logging a lot of snaps in these practices. And I can only imagine that those are the main guys who will be out there on Thursday for the game. I think that they worked out 2 more running backs today or yesterday, so there could be 1 more added to the mix. But it doesn't look like any of the top 3 guys, who are, of course, McCaffrey, Kaelon Black, and Jordan James, will be playing in this game.
Matt, I know Black, for one, was doing some work, though, on the side today. In this moment, I know it's tough because they've missed time, but how would you re-handicap the backup running back job right now behind Christian?
Yeah, I still think that there's plenty of time left in August for James and Black to make their mark. I mean, they both of those guys look good in the spring, and they both looked good to begin training camp. And one got hurt, and then the other did. And I got to say that James's issue was not his fault. He got whacked by a certain a very violent middle linebacker on the team. I'm not going to name names.
No.
I'm not going to name names.
There's a 5 and there's a 4, in whatever order you want to.
Yeah, there may be a 5 and a 4 involved. So, that's unfortunate. But I do think that the 49ers, at least with Jordan James, saw what he did last year, liked him in practice, and believe in him. And I think that they were getting the same vibe from Kaelon Black. Now, Kaelon Black is 2.5 years older than Jordan James, despite being a rookie this year, and James being a second-year player. My point being that he has a maturity about him, played in a very kind of old-school pro-style offense for a old-school style coach at Indiana, has logged a lot of games and a lot of carries. So I think that there's a trust factor there that this team might not always have with a rookie tailback. So my point is that I think that both of them can regain their position, regain that competition to play on September 10 in Australia. But, they have to get back fast in order to do that. And I would think that that's coming maybe next week for both of those guys.
Something to look forward to, certainly. And I'm also kind of looking forward to 85, George Kittle, being able to get out there and play at some point. Where do you put his trajectory in terms of not only the opener, which is a month from today, but in general, like how quickly will he be able to come back?
He was doing a lot of work today, and he was doing it right in front of us, kind of sprinting back and forth across the width of the field while the rest of the team was warming up and getting ready for practice. So he's out there. He's kind of putting that Achilles to work. I'm a little bit skeptical just because, the whole run up to the season is now truncated a bit by the fact that they have to go to Australia, something like, 8 days before the game. And then the game's on September 10. which is, a few days before what it would normally be that weekend, that Sunday. So there's a little bit less time. And when you're talking about an Achilles, he would have been pushing it anyway if the game were at Levi's Stadium on the Sunday. It would have been tight then. It's even tighter now. You've got that long flight. You've got the fact that you're in a, not just a foreign city, but a foreign continent. You don't have access to your normal rehab stuff, your normal recovery stuff. I don't know. I think it's going to be tight. I know. George Kittle and Australia go together. I mean, he would love to be there and to be there for the opener. But I just wonder whether they're pushing it too close with it. With a guy who's just such a valuable part of this team, you don't want to get him injured in week one like you did last year.
I mean, Matt, I think that's all well said. The other perspective on this is whether he plays week one or not. Seeing George Kittle look like he looked today, where are we here? 7 months after the injury? That's kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he gets injured, and then as soon as he's in the locker room, he's thinking about his rehab, and that becomes this guy's challenge. And so, the same thing with Fred Warner, and seeing his foot facing the wrong way. They put all of that competitive energy, everything that makes them elite athletes, elite performers, into their rehabs, and that's why they come back earlier than expected.
Matt, you're the best. And, I don't know, try singing in the shower and see if you can get ready for your next appearance here.
Well, maybe if you guys called me when I was in the shower, we could have hooked something up, because the shower acoustics are fantastic.
That's true.
Yeah.
I can really belt them out inside the shower.
I think both of us feel like our time slot is probably the least likely shower hour of the day. But if you're different, we're open to a discussion.
I know that you guys like to do the video podcast sessions as well. If you get me in the shower, I mean, the hits, the views are going to be through the roof on that.
Through the roof.
Your female demographic, which I'm going to guess isn't great for talks, will just explode.
Yeah. For yourself,
explode.
Yeah,
we're building it. And just one quick postscript on that. Watching you and Vic Tafer do your video content together has become my favorite thing, because you and I are both fairly diminutive and Vic is not. So the side-by-side with you and Vic Tafer has become my favorite thing.
Yeah, and I think I need to get the Vern Glenn little step ladder out there when I do my one-on-ones with Vic, because it is stark when you look at it.
It's incredible. 6'5" and 5'7",
There you go.
Matt, thank you so much. You're the best.